For a people who have depended on exploiting you to build their economy, you cannot expect them to willingly change their mind and stop exploitation. Only power can compel them to stop exploitation and seek for peace, even against their own will. And this agenda of power is at the core of ACUP's or African Continental Unity Party's activities. That is why we tell you every time that if you have two shoes, please sell one and buy a sword. Because now it is time for revolution. And this revolution is not gonna be on streets. This revolution is in the mind. Peace and power, freedom and decolonization to all of you African people. We wish you the best and power in this year 2023. My name is King Kabbalah, a member of the African Continental Unity Party, and this is the Revolutionary Agenda. Education is the preparation of the future generation. That's what we think about education. So every people who are curious, who are interested in their future or in their future generations must be involved in the investment of the education of that generation. But most particularly, they must be invested, right, in the industry that manufacture the brain of their children, who are the future generation. And that is not the job that we can leave in the hands of the Western man, because he is the same one, according to Marcus Garvey, who has the attitudes of dominating, oppressing, and if possibly exterminating other people who seem to be weak in his eyes. And therefore, we cannot leave the education of our children solely in the responsibility or in the hands of the white man. That is why we have the Free-Minded Pan-African Academy. We define a Free-Minded Pan-African Academy as the academy of the African future leaders in politics and in business. And why politics and business? The same way that any human being will need a left leg and the right leg in order to be in balance. The absence of one or of both makes a person a crippled entity. It's the same thing with a nation that needs politics or political leadership as well as business leadership in order to manage a country successfully, because managing a nation or a country is the same as the business management, by which at the end of every year, the leader must be able to declare profit to his people. When we look at the business leadership, we see that in Africa, in most cases, we have leaders who have no any knowledge of business wealth or business management. When I look where I'm coming from, where I was born, the colonial enclosure called the Democratic Republic of the Congo, I see that most parliamentarians, most of these people, deputies and whatever else who draft the policies for development of the Congo, most of them come from low background or journalists or people who were involved in the criticism of the government. And by doing that, they were able to make themselves remarkable to the public, and they got elected and they went into the parliament. But getting there, they don't have business leadership, they don't have business skills. All they know was to talk, to criticize the government. So they will drive all kind of policies for development and then run to the World Bank, run to the IMF, or run to the Chinese or to the Indians in order to get the credits to implement those projects. And at the end, those projects are not beneficial to the country. They don't bring profits to the country, and the money or the credits which they took will have to be paid with the blood of the poor people. This is a reality right now. When you look in Africa, Ghana, as we're speaking now, is in bad shape economically speaking. We don't know how it will recover. without the help of the international banks or the IMF or the Chinese, who are traditionally the sponsors of our governments, so to say. This is the consequence of the lack of business leadership or business skills among our leaders. This is the reality. There are countries who have been able to develop themselves without having the without having the abundancy of the resources that Africa has as we're speaking right now. But they have been able to develop themselves, for example, through agriculture, or through natural gas, or through France, for example. When you ask any French people why they are called the richest country or one of the richest countries in the world, while France does not have natural resources, it doesn't have gold, it doesn't have petrol, it doesn't have anything. How comes France is among the richest countries in the world? French people will tell you, we don't have oil, we don't have resources, but we have ideas. So if French people are able to develop their countries with ideas without natural resources, what is difficult for us to develop our countries in regard of all these resources that we have in Africa? One reason: we don't have leadership really built for business management or business leadership, or leadership that is looking at the country as a business in order to run the country and declare profits at the end of each year. Number one. And on the other side, when you have leaders who are business minded but they don't have a correct political ideology, they don't have skills in political leadership, it creates almost the same chaos, in a sense that these people, they don't have ideology that creates that attachment, that kind of patriotism to the nation. They are able to sell the population in order to make money because of the capitalist ideology. Therefore, with the Free-Minded Academy, we aim to create leaders who are fit into what we call political leadership as well as business leadership. And by doing so, we hope to see Africa in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, run by people who are skillful in business leadership and in political leadership. People who know where to invest and why to invest and what to expect out of that investment. And people who understand what kind of ideology, political ideology, will be beneficial to the African people. Not people who are inclined into capitalism ideologies and people who are able to sell the whole communities only for the sake of money and take that money, store it in the banks in Switzerland, in Europe, and when they are overthrown from the power, Switzerland, France, all these Western countries take that money in the name of whatever rights which they will talk about. And Africa at the end is the one who lose everything. So this is how we look this is how we look at the future of Africa. And we appeal to you, we plead with you, dear Africans who have the money, who have the means, who have the possibilities, support us so that we can materialize this vision which we have already started, to make Africa as a global power base by providing Africa with the leaders who have been well trained in political leadership as well as in the business leadership. If you have the way, if you have the skills, if you have the money, please support us either with your skills, with your time, your energy, or your money, so that we can build the buildings that we need in order to get our children educated in, to keep them there, to indoctrinate them with ideas that are worthy for African development and African progress. This is a great vision and we need to support it with realistic or materialistic means. We cannot support it only with words. It doesn't work. If we want to recreate the future that we want for Africa, we must then be able to also sacrifice our money for the liberation and emancipation of Africa. We must be able to sacrifice our time, our energy, and our skills to rebuild Africa in a way we want it. Because when we don't do that, every time we ignore to do that, the enemy spends billions in promoting the propaganda that makes the African man and African woman more and more lazy and more passive towards his own oppression, and most importantly, more stupid, that he doesn't realize what is happening right in his eyes, the oppression and the harsh enslavement in which he is being headed into. This is the time to take actions, and one of those actions is to support the building of the Free-Minded Pan-African Academy, which is the Academy for African Future Leaders in Politics and Business. And by doing that, we make sure that we guarantee the future generation and its success in the concept of global relationship and global civilizations. Thank you very much. We see you there.